Welcome to Toke, finishing up with the number three thing that I wanted to talk about. And this one, I had gotten that job that I mentioned in my last one. I was outside of Maryland, and now had moved after a few years, had moved down into Virginia, and I used to teach. Um, there was a couple of classes. One was called cost estimating for engineers. Um, I taught a class for decision risk analysis. So, those are all geared towards civilians and military, that work for a particular command within the Department of Army that handle logistics and things of that nature. So, I'm teaching away. And I remember I had an office mate, and he used to argue with me and stuff about um, minimum wage, and he would argue with me. And he was from Georgia, you know, and he had a real strong Southern drawl, and I was like, okay, this is a redneck. He wants poor people to stay poor, and I'm like, I mean, he was. I was born in Georgia, but it still didn't matter. I'm like, this white dude. I don't know, man. So, but as I started teaching some courses, I started. There was one class I taught. It was called economic analysis, and it was a pretty long block. It was part of a course that lasted for a number of weeks, and so I had this economic analysis piece that I was supposed to do. So, so I'm studying, trying to understand, how does this all work, and while I was studying, the thought kind of came to me: if everybody would go to work tomorrow, just like they did today, they would go, just like clockwork. So if it's Monday, it's time to get up at 8 o'clock, head on to work, or if you work over the weekend, it's Saturday, you jump up at midnight because you work midnight until dawn or something. All right, so if everyone would continue to work like they're doing today, and everybody did it for free, everyone, then just, and I'm taking all kinds of impulses, like if you got this system, engineers, we say, okay, what are the things that influence the system? What makes things work? So I'm taking all influences off everything, and now I'm just looking at the cost of a worker and put that influence on the system. So if everybody's doing their job and they do it for free, and everything else is for free, everything, but only thing I'm going to add is a minimum wage. Like, well, first, before I go to the minimum wage, if I take all these influences off, I said, well, what will cost? And I'm like, okay, let's say a loaf of bread. All right. So, starting with the loaf of bread, the people that put it on the shelves did it for free. They're in a building that the electricity, just trust me, if you followed it back, it would be free. Um, there would be no rent because those people are doing it. Everything, is done for free. So we back up, and the people that drove it over, they did it for free, and the gas they got, because all the workers along the line, even down to the drilling, they did that for free. And then you go back to the bakery where all the machines and stuff. Like at this point, everything is, nobody's charging anybody anything. So the bag, was that they dropped the bread in. That was made, but they did it for free. The guy that chopped up the bread into the little slices, before it got shoved in. You see where I'm heading? So all the way back to the farmer did his stuff for free. Raising the wheat and the baker and whatever. So I'm like, all right. So if I now add that minimum wage, now don't I have a minimum cost? And if I now raise that minimum wage, Now haven't I raised that minimum cost? I'm like, hmm. And my thinking was, if you were to label it, would be kind of liberal back then. So at that point, I'm kind of like, we need a maximum wage. Nobody needs to make more than a certain amount of money. I've later realized how that's kind of stupid too. But think about it. If somebody's minimum wage, if you raise it, the idea is to help that person on the bottom, right? That's the idea. So if we raise the minimum wage, we now have raised the minimum cost. Then what that means is that that person, generally what happens, those right above them, I need a raise, you know, and everybody else, when you raise their amounts of money, you raise it by a percentage, not by so many cents of dollars, like so many cents per hour, like you do a minimum wage. And so what that does is, you look at, say somebody, makes $10 an hour, okay, and he gets a 10% raise. It's $1 an hour. Let's say somebody makes $100 an hour, they get a 10% raise. They get additional $10 an hour because they use the same percentage on everybody. So I'm like, whoa, okay. So this is not computing with me. My reason is just kind of like raising a minimum wage doesn't seem to do what we wanted to do. If you want to help the folks that are poor, then that doesn't seem to help. So what you've done, and like I did in another video, one of the things that goes into the cost of something that you buy is the cost of the labor, the people doing it. So if you've raised that, then it means the products are going to cost more. So you've defeated the purpose, because whoever was poor, the reason why we raised the minimum wage, they have to spend more money to get the same stuff. And on top of that, you have the ladder. The minimum wage is like a ladder to help a person, move up. So they're down at the bottom and they want to get out of poverty. The first job, you've moved that rung up higher, so that companies, who got to make something, will not necessarily take the risk on somebody if they're being paid a whole lot of money, in the beginning until they learn. But once you learn, then you're more valuable. There's, you look at something like sports, man, those guys, they don't really need a minimum wage. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I might address this a little bit more later on, but that was kind of a strike three for me, to like, there's a political party that's pushing for some of these things that look like they really don't do what they claim they're gonna do. They kind of like make people feel good or whatever. I don't know. But anyway, that's my thoughts of a king. Hopefully you like the different setting, another little setting here by the pool.